One of the best desktop systems I've heard, and it comes from DCS. A purpose-built studio monitor, Audeze's first such headphone. A universal fit IEM that sounds like one of my favorite custom IEMs. An affordable R2R DAC amp combo that can drive the Susvara. We'll take a look at all of this and more coming right up in this video. CanJam London 2022 is taking place July 30th and 31st at the Park Plaza Westminster Bridge Hotel in central London. Our return to London would not be possible this year without our CanJam London sponsors, DCS, Rune Labs, and Headphone Guru. Now let's get right to it. This is the DCS Audio Lena system, and it's a three-piece system purpose-built for headphone listeners. The DCS Lena system consists of a dedicated network DAC, master clock, and headphone amplifier. And while you can buy them all as a system, each of these can be acquired separately. Now, the DCS Lena system is one of the best systems I've ever had the pleasure of using, and it will be at CanJam London in the DCS room in Plaza 11 on the floor above the main exhibition hall. And they'll also be in the main exhibition hall at B5, that's B as in Bravo 5. Now, DCS has been known for decades in the traditional hi-fi world, where they've had the reputation of making some of the most respected digital audio gear. And now they're making their first system that's purpose-built for headphone hi-fi enthusiasts. Let's start with what I consider the heart of the system and what DCS is known for, the DAC, the digital to analog converter. The Lena network DAC supports high-res streaming from Rune, Tidal, Qobuz, Spotify, Deezer, AirPlay, and more. And it has over 2,000 individual components on its circuit boards in this chassis and is built around DCS's legendary Ring DAC technology and digital processing platform. Now, in addition to decoding everything I would possibly feed to it, it has technologies and features very specific to us, to headphone audiophiles. One of those technologies is something called DCS Expanse technology, which is a headphone processing platform that offers an enhanced version of crossfeed. I've said many times before, I'm a big fan of crossfeed. It's a very important feature for me. So I love with the Lena system that it's happening at the DAC level, and as such enables any headphone amp I use with it with this advanced crossfeed. Now, there's a standard crossfeed setting and two other expanse crossfeed settings that are more advanced, preserving reverberation in a recording, which standard crossfeed circuits can often blunt. It also has variable output settings, making the Lena network DAC more flexible for use with different amps. Make sure to ask for a demo of these features at the show. Of course, the Lena network DAC is also a beautiful sounding DAC. Now, the second component in the system is the DCS Lena Master Clock. The Lena Master Clock uses oven-controlled dual crystal oscillators to deliver a precise and stable clocking reference. In other words, it allows the Lena network DAC to be locked to a master reference signal, minimizing jitter and other irregularities. The Lena Master Clock is intended to enhance all aspects of sound for a more immersive listening experience. Now, having read reviews of DCS master clocks over the years, I always wondered what having one in the system meant, especially because I think it's like 9 out of 10 DCS DAC owners end up adding a DCS master clock to their systems at some point. So finally, at CanJam Singapore in April, I was able to do a master clock demo with the DCS Bartok, switching a DCS Rossini master clock in and out, and the differences were striking in that system. I stayed in the DCS room for a while to watch others who walked in do the same demo and end up with the same surprised look I had. And finally, this is the DCS Lena headphone amplifier. This amp took years of development. Having immersed themselves in our community, DCS saw that headfires will often want to drive a wide range of earphones and headphones with their amps. And so essentially, DCS wanted this amp to be able to drive a lot of voltage into high impedance headphones, a lot of current into low impedance ones, and to also drive well those headphones that simultaneously need a lot of voltage and a lot of current. For this amp, they went with a Class AB stage with a new innovative error correction technique. This amp is very flexible. From the Lena headphone amplifier, I've been listening to the Sony IERM9 and TheAudio Monarch Mark II IEMs in its low gain mode. And in addition to it being quiet in terms of self-noise, it was one of the best sounding amps I've used with either of those IEMs. I've also been listening to it with the Hifiman Susvara in its high gain mode, and it's among the best solid-state headphone amps I've heard with the Susvara. Being able to switch between a wide variety of IEMs and over-ears, all of it driven beautifully, makes this such a very special system. Now, DCS's circuit designs tend to require a lot of space, and the Lena system is certainly no exception. But for the Lena system, DCS recognized that many headfires do not have a lot of desk real estate to spare for typically DCS-sized gear. So they designed these components so that they can optionally be stacked to minimize the required desk space. Because my main desk at home is pretty tiny, I like this skyscraper design approach to minimize the use of desk real estate. Now, I'll be talking in another video about the DCS Lena system in more detail later. In the meantime, move the DCS Lena system to the top of your audition list at CanJam London, again in DCS's listening room at Plaza 11 and also in the main hall in B5.
Seminars are a CanJam staple, and this year's CanJam London will have 5 seminar sessions taking place during the weekend. None of them are repeated and seating is limited, so plan your schedule accordingly to not miss the seminars you want to see. The seminars will take place in the Plaza 12 and 13 suites located on the lower lobby level. Our seminar schedule kicks off on Saturday, July 30th at noon with Headphones 101, presented by Micaiah Shanae of Headamp Audio Electronics. Simple in theory, headphones can be complicated electroacoustic devices. Join Micaiah for a clear overview of various driver designs and learn about basic acoustics, frequency response, sensitivity, and more. Most importantly, discover how to choose the headphones that best suit your needs. From 2 to 3 p.m., join Andy McCarg, Technical Director at DCS, and James Cook, Head of Customer Service at DCS, for a talk titled The DCS Difference. From designing radar systems for naval jets to developing the world's first high-resolution digital converters, DCS's 35-year history is filled with extraordinary moments. Join Andy and James as they take a look at some of these landmark innovations, including their proprietary DCS Ring DAC, and discover how DCS became a leading force in digital audio. Our final Saturday seminar from 3 to 4 p.m. will be a presentation by HeadFi's founder Jude Mansilla titled Evolution of Hearing Simulation and an Examination of Frequency Response Targets and How We Use Them. Jude will examine how the most popular hearing simulation standard, known to many as 711, was developed over 40 years ago and how important advancements in the years since will inevitably lead to the adoption of emergent standards. He will also discuss frequency response targets, how they are used in the industry and by reviewers, and some important considerations therein. Are we missing the target? Find out during Evolution of Hearing Simulation. On Sunday, July 31st from 1 to 2 p.m., Mike Householder, VP of Product Marketing, and Michael Ricci, Senior Director of Electroacoustic Engineering from XMEMS Labs, will be presenting solid-state fidelity and introduction to the world's first all-silicone microspeakers for personal audio devices. This talk will introduce a new all-silicone transduction mechanism that is set to disrupt century-old coil and magnet driver architectures. This new solid-state architecture implements both actuation and diaphragm in silicone, resulting in unmatched part-to-part frequency response and phase consistency. This innovative transduction mechanism has also produced the world's fastest and most precise microspeakers, eliminating spring and suspension recovery of coil speakers, which improves audio quality and sound field reproduction. And finally, on Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m., join Ariane Basari, lead analyst at FutureSource Consulting, for top trends in mass premium headphones. Through this presentation, FutureSource Consulting hopes to highlight the top stats, key brands, and features of the $200 and above headphone segment, and what they can expect in this space over the short to mid-term. FutureSource is also bringing out new consumer research that will shed some light on the demographic profiles of consumers who seek to purchase premium headphones and what they would like to see from products at these price points. Again, these seminars are taking place July 30th and 31st in the Plaza 12 and 13 suites on the lower lobby level, directly above the main CanJam exhibit area. Each of these incredible talks and presentations will be happening only once, so be sure to grab a seat before it becomes standing room only.
This is the new Chord Electronics Mojo 2, and it's the successor to the immensely popular Chord Mojo that was released 7 years ago. And right now, given supply chain issues, this Mojo 2 may be worth its weight in gold, as it can be hard to find in stock anywhere at the moment. You will, however, be able to hear the Chord Electronics Mojo 2 at CanJam London. And what Chord has packed into the Mojo 2, the improvements and the features versus the first generation Mojo, is a significantly long list of stuff, and some of these new features and improvements are, for me, and probably will be for a lot of you, very significant. Let's start with some of the overall improvements with the Mojo 2. There have been many improvements with the Mojo 2's DAC. There are nearly 41,000 taps now, 40 DSP cores, and a 104-bit custom DSP core, among many other improvements. They've also eliminated coupling capacitors, which they say contributes to greater neutrality with the Mojo 2 versus the first generation Mojo. And that's one of the first things I noticed about the Mojo 2 is that it sounds more neutral and more resolving than its predecessor. The older model being more smoothed over, a bit more lush, not as resolving as this new Mojo 2. Something else Chord Electronics added with the Mojo 2 is something I am very excited about, and that's a super useful digital EQ or tone control thanks to the new DSP. With this EQ, there are 4 bands of adjustment: lower bass centered at 20 Hz, mid bass with a 125 Hz shelf, lower treble with a 3 kHz shelf, and high treble centered at 20 kHz. For each of the 4 bands, there's an adjustment range of 18 decibels. This EQ functionality is very easy to access and use once you get used to it. And as someone who uses EQ regularly, this is a very big deal to me. The Mojo 2 also adds 3 different types of crossfeed, and I'm also a crossfeed fan and have been for many years, so the addition of crossfeed is also a big deal for me. With this, the Mojo 2 joins the Chord Hugo family in providing crossfeed, and again, I love it. Now, in addition to using the Mojo 2 with my computers, I've also been using it with an iPad Pro, which gives me a desktop rig quality system that fits in a small bag. And I should also mention that the Mojo 2 is compatible with the Chord Electronics Poly Streamer server if you want to take it wireless. Now, the Mojo 2 supply will eventually replenish in the sales channels, but in the meantime, make sure to hear it and the rest of Chord Electronics' product lineup at CanJam London.
Rune Labs will be joining us at CanJam London this year, and they're also one of our CanJam London sponsors, so thank you Rune Labs for helping make the event possible. For those of you who aren't already familiar with Rune, it's an intelligent music management service designed to enhance your listening experience along every step of the process, from library management to streaming and playback to networking all of your audio devices into a single unified ecosystem. The Rune experience begins with what Rune calls the Rune Core. The Rune Core takes all of your favorite tracks and albums, both local files and streaming, and organizes them into a single consolidated library. Key to my personal needs is that it does so without moving files from one location to another. Then, Rune's Player app steps in. Of course, the Rune Player gives you control over your entire music collection, but it enables more than just basic playback. One of my personal favorite features that comes as part of Rune's software suite is music discovery. Rune's app recommends new music and artists through curated playlists and Rune Radio's machine learning recommendations. The Rune app also offers insights into my favorite bands, musicians, and tracks through its many features that include biographical information, liner notes, song lyrics, and accurate metadata. So even if I'm not discovering new artists, Rune offers deeper insights into the artists I know and love. Now, that's just one feature among many included in Rune's service, so be sure to have the Rune team give you a full demo when you sit down. Rune Labs also offers a custom-designed dedicated server solution called the Rune Nucleus, a self-contained all-in-one hardware platform. If you've been looking for an easy-to-use solution that can help you get more out of your Rune subscription, then be sure to check out the Rune Nucleus while auditioning Rune's magnificent software at Rune Labs' CanJam London exhibit.
Here's a question. How do you design a flagship IEM cable that you know headfires will love? Simple. You enlist headfires to help design it for you, which is exactly what ELATEC did in developing this. This is ELATEC's new Ode to Laura, the first copper cable worthy of a place in their premium Parnassus line, and it will be making its show debut at CanJam London 2022. This past spring, half a world away at CanJam Singapore, ELATEC exhibited a trio of prototype cables, labeled Alpha, Beta, and Gamma for their new flagship copper project, then known only as Project L. After getting plenty of feedback from the show, ELATEC sent these same prototypes on a Headfi tour, where members were asked to provide detailed and specific feedback as to what qualities ELATEC should preserve and what qualities they should change, thus sculpting and shaping the final signature. With all of that critical feedback in hand, ELATEC was able to finalize development on Project L to Headfire specifications, christening it Ode to Laura, in a nod to the Renaissance poet Petrarch. As you can see, they ended up combining various elements from all 3 prototypes into an incredibly complex geometry to maximize the strengths of their multiple copper blends. And the result? Simply put, Ode to Laura sounds exactly the way you'd think a flagship copper cable should sound, with an abundance of weight, gravitas, and palpable body given to both voices and instruments, and a natural non-fatiguing tonality throughout. And compared to Socrates, ELATEC's intermediate cable from their School of Athens line, Their new Ode to Laura is a clear step up Fidelity's ladder, offering notable improvements in balance, detail, and clarity. Personally, I found Elatek's Ode to Laura particularly enjoyable with the guilty pleasure genre of mine, 80s music. Time and time again, Ode to Laura imparted new life and excitement into recordings by Talk Talk, Level 42, The Human Lead, Brian Ferry, OMD, and pretty much anything that David Foster has ever touched. Now, I know what you're thinking. Warren, you're daft, mate. There's no way I'm going to get a cable just for 80s stuff. No, I don't imagine that you would. But here's the thing. That 80s sound isn't confined to a singular decade, one that ended before many of today's headfires were even born. That sound has now come full circle in the releases of contemporary artists like The Midnight, The 1975, The Weeknd, certainly, Dua Lipa, Chromeo, Tame Impala, and more. In fact, even original 80s recordings are back on the charts owing to pop culture phenomenon like Stranger Things. At this very moment, Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill is at number 4 on Billboard's Top 100. And even Metallica is recharting with Master of Puppets in at number 40. So whether you're a child of the 80s like myself, or you grew up in the 90s where today's pop is the music of your generation, there's a good chance that Ode to Laura might just offer you some much appreciated sonic satisfaction.
Many years ago, I visited Hi-Fi-Man founder Fong Bian's home in New York, back when he lived in New York earning his PhD, so this was a long time ago. Anyway, I visited Fong at his home, and it looked like the lair of a mad audio scientist. Almost every inch of his home was overflowing with circuit boards in various states of assembly. There was a soldering station, headphone drivers of various types, some in prototypes, others just lying around waiting to be used. It was clearly an audio laboratory that Fong just happened to live in. I wish I had more time here because I could tell you many stories about Fong that point to one thing. Fong Bian lives and breathes audio, and he's a fanatical, never-ending wellspring of audio ideas. And practicality never seems to limit him in his pursuit of great sound. I also remember when Fong told me he was working on the first hi-fi quality portable audio player, the Hi-Fi-Man HM801, which, though rough-hewn by today's standards, kicked off the high-end portable digital audio player market that has evolved to where it is today. In the earliest days, Fong would tell me about his plans for affordable planar magnetic headphones with high-end performance. And as we all know, he's been making those kinds of headphones for years. Still another impractical idea Fong wanted to pursue was to develop his own R2R DAC chip. Like many in the audiophile world, Fong has always preferred the sound of R2R DACs. Now, virtually all of the DACs we use today are a type called Delta Sigma, which long ago replaced R2R type DACs. Now, if you don't know what R2R or Delta Sigma DACs are, you're going to have to Google both as we don't have time to dive into those topics in this preview video. I will say that R2R DAC enthusiasts are often passionate about them, strongly preferring the character, the sound of R2R DACs. And indeed, some of the best DACs I've heard have been of the R2R type. So at CanJam London, make sure to listen to Hi-Fi-Man's new EF400 desktop R2R DAC amp combo. The EF400's DAC section is based on the Hi-Fi-Man Himalaya R2R DAC architecture, and it lets you quickly switch between non-oversampling and oversampling modes and low and high gain modes. The amplifier section is a fully balanced, fully differential circuit. Maximum output is up to 4.4 watts per channel with up to 10.7 volts RMS into 36 ohms with less than 1% THD at that level. So far, I've mostly been using the EF400 to drive the flagship planar Hi-Fi-Man Susvara, considered by many to be the best non-electrostatic headphone ever made. And the EF400 drives the Susvara beautifully. I've also been using the EF400 with the new, very reasonably priced Hi-Fi-Man Edition XS planar magnetic headphone. I can even use it with my favorite IEMs in the EF400's low gain mode. Now, unfortunately, due to the current state of international travel, I don't think Fong Bian will be at CanJam London personally. But at CanJam, you will be able to hear the EF400 and the entire Hi-Fi-Man lineup. Make sure to also listen to their headphones at all price points. These are products that come from the mind of perhaps the single most dedicated, passionate audio company founder I've ever known. Audeze's LCD-X has already made a name for itself in the pro audio world, particularly when it comes to higher-end headphones used in studios. But here's the thing. As good as the Audeze LCD-X is as a studio monitor, it was not purpose-built as a studio headphone. But this new headphone, this is the Audeze MM500. The MM500 is the first purpose-built pro audio headphone from Audeze, and I think it'll be one of the most popular new headphones to audition at CanJam London this year, along with its other high-demand stablemates, the flagship Audeze LCD5 and the electrostatic Audeze Carbon. Now, the MM in the Audeze MM500's name stands for Manny Marroquin, whom some of you who pay attention to the pro audio scene may already know. Manny is a mixing engineer who's won 11 Grammys. He's a giant in his field. And Manny Marroquin is now also Audeze's head of professional products. The MM500 is Manny's first headphone, and he and Audeze have crafted what I have no doubt will be one of Audeze's most popular headphones. Going back and forth with the MM500 between two of my other favorite Audezes, the latest generation LCD-X and the flagship LCD-5, I'd say the MM500 definitely has more in common sonically, not to mention physically, design-wise, with the flagship Audeze LCD-5. The MM500 actually reminds me a lot of the Audeze LCD-5, but it's slightly smoother in the treble to my ears and also a bit richer in the bass and mids. The LCD-5, which I think is one of the most resolving non-electrostatic headphones ever made, is still the more resolving of the two, but don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. The MM500 is still very resolving. In fact, compared to the Audeze LCD-X, the MM500 out-resolves it. Compared to the X, the MM500 is simply cleaner through the bass and mids, a little leaner and faster through there too. And its treble in comparison is like taking an already clean window and opening it up. Again, the MM500 has more in common to my ears with the LCD-5 than the LCD-X. Anyway, the new Audeze MM500 will be worth getting in line for to hear at CanJam London. Of course, if you have not yet heard the flagship Audeze LCD-5 and the electrostatic Audeze Carbon, you absolutely have to hear those at CanJam London too.
Over the past few years, there's been tremendous growth in our personal audio community. If you're one of the many new members focused on portable personal audio, and I know that many of you are, then chances are you've now got a few pairs of IEMs in your collection, probably a dongle DAC amp or two, and maybe even a standalone DAP, which means that it's only a matter of time before you start considering aftermarket IEM cables for your portable rig. If you're not sure where to begin, that's all right, because Effect Audio has distilled the key elements of their greatest hits into an accessible trio of cables in their new Signature series. Their new Aries S is a 4-wire cable featuring 24-gauge copper Litz wire, and it's a direct descendant of Effect Audio's immensely popular Aries 2 cable. Then, taking center stage in the middle of the Signature series is Cadmus, also a 4-wire cable, but with 24-gauge silver-plated copper Litz wire, extending its technical capabilities beyond that of a classical Aries presentation. And finally, at the top end of the Signature series is Eros S, an 8-wire cable featuring a hybrid of 26-gauge pure silver Litz and 26-gauge pure copper Litz wires. Personally, I suggest that you start with the Cadmus. I found it to be the most balanced of the three and a solid choice for those of us who listen to multiple genres. From there, if you prefer a warmer and more intimate presentation, then move over to the Aries S. But if you prefer a more neutral and detailed signature than that of the Cadmus, you'll definitely want to audition at Eros S instead. No matter what your sonic preference might be, Effect Audio's new Signature series will have a cable that aligns with that preference nicely. At the other extreme of the hobby, you might be a hardcore portable veteran. After years of questing, you found your unicorn in-ears, you're sourcing it with an endgame DAP, and your cable is the only thing left to tweak. Enter Effect Audio's Flagship series. The Chiron is an 8-wire cable comprised of 26-gauge gold-plated silver and gold-plated silver-gold alloy wires. Presentation-wise, its tonal balance is nearly flawless, nearly being just a touch shy in sub-bass. Resolution-wise, it's incredibly detailed and resolving while being surprisingly free of harshness at the same time. And its staging is incredibly wide, where non-center imaged elements are almost forcibly out of head. Make no mistake, the Chiron is fully worthy of its flagship status. And yet, the highest echelon of Effect Audio's Flagship series is occupied by their Centurion, an 8-wire cable that consists entirely of 26-gauge gold-plated silver-gold alloy wire. It goes beyond the Chiron by addressing that aforementioned sub-bass deficit and delivering even more detail both effortlessly and viscerally. But take some care here, because the Centurion is not for the faint of heart. It's resolving to the point of being unforgiving of poor recordings, egregious production techniques, and of course, subpar signal chains. It is simply uncompromising. That said, you can temper that unrelenting deluge with Effect Audio's new premium OFC Pentacon termination upgrade, which is now available at no extra charge. All of these cabling options and more await your auditions at CanJam London 2022.
Dakone Audio is one of the US-based audio companies making the trek across the pond to join us at CanJam London. If you're not already familiar with Dakone Audio, they manufacture premium aftermarket pads, ear tips, and accessories for some of your favorite headphones and earphones. Dakone's memory foam ear pads are available in several configurations using premium materials like sheepskin, velour, and vegan leather, and they're available for a wide range of headphones from iconic Head5 favorites like Sennheiser's HD800s to the widely popular Sony WH-1000 XM4. Their exhibit will be your chance to experience the vast line of premium aftermarket pads with your favorite headphones. If you're more of an in-ear enthusiast, you won't want to miss auditioning the Dakone Audio Bullets on your favorite in-ears and true wireless IEMs. Those of you who travel frequently with your full-size headphones will want to check out Dakone Audio's Save Your Headphone case, and anyone looking to add a touch more comfort to their headphones should have Dakone Audio's Nuggets on their audition list. The Nuggets are one of the more unusual accessories you'll find at Dakone's exhibit, and they're small adhesive pads that attach to a headphone's headband to improve comfort and potentially reduce hotspots. I've had them attached to my Grado GW100 ever since I picked them up, and since the first moment they've been dual purpose for me, improving both comfort and overall fit. With Nuggets, ear tips, pads, cases, and even complete headphones, there really will be something for everyone to try at Dakone Audio's CanJam London exhibit.
I am very excited that two storied brands will be exhibited together at CanJam London, two companies that have been of tremendous importance in the audiophile journeys of many in our community, myself included. I'm talking about Westone Audio and Etymotic. Why are they being exhibited together? Because both are now owned by Lucid Audio. What I love about Lucid Audio's approach, though, is that the spirit and individuality of each of these companies remains alive. Their designs, their voicings, Westone Audio is still very much Westone Audio, and Etymotic is still very much Etymotic. Westone Audio will be showing their new Westone Audio mock lineup of in-ear monitors, which was very recently launched. In years past, many in our community, myself included, fell in love with one or more of Westone's custom-molded in-ear monitors. Of course, there's been wide acceptance of Westone's custom-fit IEMs in the pro audio world for ages now. Westone customs are used on stage by many artists. But one of the funny things about Westone's lineup is that there were no universal fit versions of their beloved custom IEMs. Westone's universal fit IEMs always had their own voicings independent of the customs. But with the new mock lineup of universal fit IEMs, each of the models is voiced similarly to its numbered ES custom fit counterparts. For example, this is my Westone ES60 custom fit IEM, one of my favorite of all my custom fit IEMs for its fit, its comfort, and of course for its sound. And this is the new Westone Audio Mach 60, and its sound signature reminds me quite a lot of these ES60 customs. Do the two sound exactly alike? No, the customs, the ES60s, of course, have the advantage of having sound outlets that are custom fit to fire more directly well into my ear canals. I find the customs a bit more articulate with a bit more treble bite. My custom ES60s are also more sensitive. But to my ears, the Mach 60 is a little cleaner and tighter through the bass. On balance, though, I find the Mach 60 a great taste of the magic of my Westone ES60 customs. I'd suggest starting with the Mach 60, which after brief auditions of the entire Mach lineup is my preliminary favorite. And again, it'll give you a good taste of one of my favorite custom IEMs. When it comes to Etymotic, anyone familiar with Etymotic knows they were married to the concept of single driver in-ear designs for many, many years. But with the acquisition by Lucid Audio, it seems Etymotic's engineers were given free rein, and with that came their first foray into multi-driver design with the Etymotic Evo. The Etymotic Evo is a 3-balanced armature design with a 2-way crossover. The Evo uses dual balanced armature low-frequency drivers and a single mid-range treble BA driver. Still though, the Etymotic Evo is still very much an Etymotic, but with deeper, richer bass and overall more resolution than any Etymotic I've heard before it. For those of you who haven't heard Etymotics before, I think most would perceive the Evo as more neutral, flatter, with just enough energy in the bass to elevate it out of leanness. The Etymotic Evo would be a solid monitor in my opinion, and also a wonderful general use audiophile earphone. Anyway, you'll be able to hear the Westone Audio and Etymotic product lineups at CanJam London, and I strongly suggest you do.
Focal first entered the head-fi space back in 2016 with the launch of two now iconic headphones, the Focal Utopia and Focal Elir. The Utopia still stands today as one of the most electrostatic-sounding electrodynamic headphones, with a highly resolving sound and exceptional clarity and detail throughout the entire audio band. At CanJam London, the Utopia will of course be on hand for you to try, but there are two other models that I think could make a perfect match for many of you. This is the Focal Clear MG. The Clear MG is the evolution of the original Focal Clear that launched during CanJam at RMAF back in 2017. Like its name implies, the MG replaces the aluminum magnesium alloy dome found in the original Clear with a solid magnesium dome. Now, that might seem like a small change, but it's had a profound effect on the Clear MG's tuning. This solid magnesium dome is more rigid than the alloy dome found in the Focal Clear, and lighter than the pure beryllium dome found in the Focal Utopia. Compared to the Clear MG manages to eke out more detail in the upper register while delivering that detail in a more organic, more refined manner. This shift gives the MG a tonal balance with a dash more body in its presentation. If you found the original Clear a touch bright or lean, then the Clear MG will be a must-try at Focal's exhibit. Of course, you can't talk about Focal's headphones without mentioning their flagship closed-back headphone, the Focal Stelia. If you haven't already seen our interview with Focal's Nicolas Debard from the Stelia's launch, I highly recommend checking it out as he explains in depth how the Stelia came to be and some of the exceptional engineering and design that went into it. Standing apart from its flagship sibling, the Utopia, the Stelia isn't the last word in resolution. But where the Utopia's highly resolving signature may be too lean or bright for some listeners, the Stelia's warmer, fuller-bodied sound falls right in line with a broad range of personal tastes and preferences. What makes each of these headphones so incredibly special in our space is Focal's approach to headphone design. Focal is best known globally for their awe-inspiring speakers, and Focal brought their years of experience, research, and design to their fabulous family of headphones. At CanJam London, you'll be able to experience the culmination of everything Focal in the Utopia, Clear MG, Stelia, and the rest of Focal's lineup.
Earlier this year, at CanJam Singapore 2022, Noble Audio augmented its lineup with 5 new models. Covering a wide variety of sonic preferences, this comprehensive refresh included their Falcon ANC, which adds active noise cancelling to their much-acclaimed Falcon True Wireless IEM. Their Warm and Smooth Jade, a hybrid design featuring quad BAs boosted by a single dynamic driver. Their Neutral Cadence, an octuple BA design tuned for detail, clarity, and precision. And their fun and musical D12, a single dynamic model that I found incredibly enjoyable across a wide range of genres. But of all their latest models, the one I was most impressed by was their Kublaikon, an amazing quad-bridge 7-driver IEM comprised of one bone-conducting tactile transducer for visceral sub-bass, one 10mm dynamic driver delivering rich and powerful mid-bass, 4 Knowles BA drivers for gorgeous mids and clear upper mids, and a piezoelectric super tweeter for delicate and airy highs. On top of its exceptionally well-extended frequency response, I was astounded by the resolving ability, its expansive staging, and its impressively vivid imaging. Noble's new Kublaikon is, to my ears, one of the best IEMs I've heard in quite some time. Be sure to audition Noble Audio's new Kublaikon at CanJam London 2022.
If you're looking for some of the most artfully designed and meticulously crafted audio gear around, then look no further than Mezza Audio. Mezza Audio will have their entire lineup of incredible headphones and in-ears at CanJam London, but there are 2 pieces in particular that I think should be at the top of your list. The first of which is this, the Mezza Audio Lyric. The Lyric is Mezza's standalone foray into the world of flagship-level portable headphones, and Mezza knocked it out of the park by taking full advantage of the brilliant minds on their staff. At the Lyric's core, you'll find the same driver technology found in their iconic Empyrean and Elite headphones, but the driver itself has been adjusted to be more compact and better suited for portable use. The driver is housed within a lightweight, gloss matte spattered magnesium chassis with aluminum and copper accents. Its design is a treat to the eyes, and thankfully its sound is equally as delightful for the ears. Sonically, the Lyric is full-bodied, with a rich, thick low end, a slightly forward mid-range, and a clear resolving topside. To my ears, its lower range is accentuated enough to push it out of my personal range of neutral, but it's a signature that I consider audiophile fun, and one that will no doubt appeal to lovers of the Empyrean and Elite alike. Once you finish auditioning the Lyric, be sure to audition my personal favorite IEM in Mezza's line, the Mezza Audio Rye Penta. The Rye Penta is a hybrid IEM featuring 5 drivers per side, 1 electrodynamic driver and 4 custom balanced armature drivers. Together, the Rye Penta's driver combination delivers a smoothly balanced sound from top to bottom. The treble is detailed with just a hint of sparkle, the mid-range is clean, smooth, and relaxed, and the low end is quick and snappy. It's easily my favorite signature in Mezza's IEM lineup. I'm certain that many of you will be lining up to audition Mezza Audio's flagships like the Mezza Audio Elite and Advar, but make sure that the Rye Penta and Lyric are on your CanJam London list too.
If you've ever had the pleasure of meeting the Visioneers team, then you know they're some of the nicest people you'll meet in the industry. If you have a chance to sit down and talk to them, you'll also realize how serious they are about the science and art of crafting top-tier IEMs. In my opinion, Amin Karimpour and Marcel Schoenen of Visioneers have released some of the most impressive IEMs in the past several years. One example, their Visioneers Elysium, was one of the first IEMs to integrate Sonion's EST electrostatic drivers seamlessly, and I think the Elysium is still one of the best implementations of EST I've yet heard, and one of the best IEMs I've heard in the last few years. And Visioneers engineer Oliver Marino has been among my favorite engineers to talk to about IEM design and audio measurements. We're regularly chatting about these things, even doing Zoom video calls during the lockdowns. Visioneers will be at CanJam London, so make sure to hear their 2 latest models, the Visioneers EXT and the Visioneers Phonix. The EXT is Visioneers' latest electrostatic-equipped IEM, but its configuration is very unique. It has a 9.2mm dynamic driver for bass, a 6mm dynamic driver for the mids, and 4 electrostatic drivers for the highs. It's a huge challenge to tune such different driver types to work together without any detectable break in timbre. And the Visioneers EXT is, to my ears, seamless in this regard. The EXT's signature is big, powerful, driving, with bass that's emphasized but clean, like a beautifully engineered subwoofer and crossover that's been tuned north of neutral for audiophile bass enthusiasts. And as they did with the Elysium, they've used the electrostatic tweeters to give lovely extension and air up top. Again, the integration of the dynamic and electrostatic drivers is beautifully executed. Also, if how an IEM looks is important to you, the Visioneers EXT is, in my opinion, one of the best-looking, most striking IEMs I've ever seen. The machined metal purple faceplate with the precise CNC nested X-shaped cuts exposing the functional aluminum mesh underneath makes for an absolutely gorgeous IEM. Now, the Visioneers Phonix is a descendant of Visioneers Erlkönig, built around an improved version of Erlkönig's driver configuration. Among the improvements Visioneers was shooting for with the Phonix was more openness and air in the higher frequencies, and I feel they've done that. The Phonix is an all-balanced armature 13-driver design, with 4 BAs for the lows, 4 for the mids, 4 BAs for the mid-highs, and a new super tweeter. The Phonix's tuning is rich, not quite as bass-rich, not quite as low-bass slamming as the EXT to me, but the Phonix has a full-bodiedness through the mid-range that's very engaging. And even with the warmth in the mids, there's excellent shimmer and air up top too, which I'll bet is due to the new super tweeter. I'll have to listen to the Elysium again, but for my tastes, the Phonix might be my favorite Visioneers IEM to date. It's fantastic. And again, by the way, if you care about how your IEMs look, the Phonix is also gorgeous, with a completely different aesthetic from the EXT. The Phonix has a carbon fiber main body machined from a block of aerospace-grade carbon fiber and a golden or matte black carrier faceplate with domed sapphire glass through which there's a dark red chrome layer with the golden Phonix logo. Anyway, if you're shopping for top-tier IEMs, or even if you're just curious about what is being done at the very high end of IEMs today, make sure to stop by Visioneers exhibit to listen to the EXT, the Phonix, and the rest of Visioneers IEMs.
One of the things I love most about CanJam is that it's a perfect place to discover something unconventional, something unique, something completely unexpected. At CanJam London, you'll be able to experience avant-garde headphones at Spirit Torino's exhibit, where they'll be exhibiting this, the Spirit Torino Mistral Pro. The Mistral Pro is a semi-closed headphone with a stainless steel headband, and calling back to another CanJam exhibitor, ventilated Alcantara earpads designed in collaboration with Dakone Audio. Its cups are constructed from a combination of mahogany and birch woods, and the headphone is supported on the head by a Vera Pelle leather comfort strap. The Mistral Pro comes in 2 finishes, one a striking blue and the other a more natural mahogany. Spirit Torino describes the Mistral Pro as a unique headphone with a unique design, and they're correct on both counts. Now, this headphone just arrived, and since we're on our final day filming this preview, my time with it has been extremely limited. I paired the Mistral Pro with my Chord Electronics Hugo 2 and auditioned it with some of my go-to test songs. Going off some of my favorite soundtrack, pop, and rock tracks, my first impressions are that this headphone may be best suited for those who prefer leaner, more detail-centric presentations. I get the impression that Spirit Torino didn't try to play it safe with the Mistral Pro's tuning, electing instead to take a more bold, more adventurous approach. I'm going to be spending more time with the Mistral Pro in the coming days, and at CanJam London, you'll have plenty of time to experience the Mistral Pro alongside the rest of the Spirit Torino line. If you're searching for something novel, then make sure Spirit Torino is on your list. There are a few exhibitors you can always expect to see at a CanJam, and without a doubt, Empire Ears is on that list. Alongside their incredibly popular line of universal and custom-fit IEMs, including community favorites like the Wraith, Odin, and Valkyrie, Empire Ears will be showing off an IEM that has generated a fervent following since its announcement back in September. It's the next evolution of their highly regarded Legend X IEM, the Legend Evo. The Legend Evo's driver complement is inspired by the original Legend X, but it has several key changes inside. The Legend Evo replaces the dual W9 dynamic drivers found in the Legend X with two of Empire Ears' improved W9 Plus drivers, and pairs those with a new bone-conducting Weapon X Ultra driver. Empire Ears says that the upgraded arrangement delivers an experience that you can see and feel all the way from 5 Hz to 35 kHz in what they describe as the most immersive, pure, and stereophonic sound possible. Of course, the Legend Evo won't be the only IEM worth auditioning at their exhibit. While you're there, be sure to experience my personal favorite in the Empire Ears line, the Empire Ears Wraith. The Wraith features 11 drivers and a 5-way crossover design, including 2 low, 3 mid, 2 high, and 4 super high drivers. It's not my favorite looking IEM in Empire Ears' lineup. That honor goes to the staggeringly beautiful Valkyrie, but the Wraith will take you by surprise with its incredible extension on both ends, excellent clarity in the mid-range, and a wonderful sense of air up top. Do not miss the Wraith, Legend Evo, and the rest of the Empire Ears' outstanding family of in-ears.
Please bear with me, but I have a bit of a confession to make. I've only attended 2 CanJams in my entire life. Only 2. Now, it's true that I've worked a few dozen CanJams over the years, but that's a very different experience altogether. Simply put, there's little or no time for me to listen to anything. And believe me, I am fully aware of just how tragic that irony is. To keep from going mad about it, I've had to institute a policy where I commit to hearing at least one new thing at every CanJam. These stolen moments have become a sacred tradition for me, and I value them immensely because over the years, whether through providence or sheer serendipity, these limited auditions have been defining moments in my personal audio journey. For example, it's how I discovered Westone's ES80, a balanced and linear signature that has been my reference in ear going on nearly 4 years. That's almost a decade in head-fi years. Now, I've been on about all this because at CanJam Singapore earlier this year, my singular audition led me to a very special prototype, one which has since become exquisitely finalized just in time for CanJam London 2022. This is Jomo Audio's new GT600, and it is absolutely spectacular. Just utterly brilliant. Aesthetically, it's gorgeous to behold, dressed in forged carbon fiber unibody shells for the universal version. Technically, it's a 12-driver tri-bit design featuring a 6-way crossover governing 2 coaxial dual-diaphragmed carbon nanotube dynamic drivers, anchoring the low end. An array of 6 balanced armature drivers covering lower mids, upper mids, and highs. And 4 electrostatic drivers functioning as super tweeters at the top end. Sonically, though it's not neutral, it is surprisingly balanced, far more balanced than the aforementioned driver complement might suggest. There is ample sub-bass, leading into a luxuriously rich and impactful mid-bass, which then blossoms into seemingly infinite layers of mid-range detail, spotlighting both vocals and instruments alike. With 2 drivers dedicated to the upper mids, one would presume some harshness there. But no. In fact, one of the 6 crossovers in the GT600 exists solely to segment the upper mids between 2 different BA drivers, such that there is plenty of detail and presence in that region, but with relatively little glare or stridency to boot. And finally, with 4 electrostatic super tweeters, you'd think that its highs are as bright as the sun. Again, no. They actually translate into an astounding sense of air and space more than anything else. So, Is Jomo Audio's GT600 my new reference IEM? I enjoy nearly every genre out there, and this unit has only just arrived recently, so I've got much more listening ahead of me before I can make that call. But so far, there is nothing about the GT600 that I don't like. Maybe you can help me with that decision, with your impressions of it when you hear it at CanJam London 2022.
When you think of the premium portable market, few companies come to mind as quickly as Audeze and Kern. Their cost-no-object flagship players deliver some of the best-in-class on-the-go sound in the industry, but those same flagships can sometimes overshadow the other jewels in Audeze and Kern's collection. This is one of those very gems, the A&E Ultima SP2000T. The SP2000T sits just below the flagship SP2000 in the A&E Ultima line, but carves out a place for itself with several welcome features like 4.4mm balanced output, a quad ES9068AS DAC architecture, and a higher resolution display. It has a quad-core CPU, supports 32 384 PCM and DSD512, and thanks to its Android-based operating system, it's compatible with many of the top streaming services like Apple Music and Tidal. But so far, I've been singing and dancing around this player's main party piece. It's called the SP2000T, a capital T, and that stands for tubes. That's right, this is a portable player with both tube and solid-state sound, thanks to the integrated Korg NuTube 6P1 vacuum tube. The SP2000T can output audio to your favorite headphones in its full solid-state mode, a full tube mode, or one of several selectable hybrid settings with different balances between those two. It's an incredibly flexible player that maintains that classic Audeze and Kern feel. Recently, Audeze and Kern announced a new special edition of the SP2000T with a copper-nickel alloy finish, and CanJam London will be your first chance to see this limited release chassis in person. You'll also have a chance to audition the just-released Audeze and Kern Pathfinder, developed in collaboration with Campfire Audio, and I'm willing to bet that a few of you perked up after hearing that. The Pathfinder is a hybrid IEM featuring dual 10mm dynamic drivers paired with some of the latest balanced armature drivers from Knowles. Since both of these new releases are difficult to find at the moment, CanJam London will be the best place to experience both the Pathfinder and SP2000T, alongside the flagship A&E Ultima SP2000, Con Max, and the rest of the Audeze and Kern family. Again, CanJam London is happening July 30th and 31st at the Park Plaza Westminster Bridge Hotel, and this video was just a sampling of what you'll be able to audition at the show. On your screen now is a list of all of the exhibitors and brands at CanJam London this year. It'll be so great to be back in London with CanJam, and we can't wait to see you. Thanks for watching, we'll see you in London and on the forums at headfi.org.